Hello, thank you for joining me on this week's episode. This is actually my first episode of doing a podcast slash YouTube video. I'll be uploading on both. My name's Jana. I did a little intro video that's like about 4 minutes long. If you want to get to know me and understand what the podcast is about, no idea what to name it yet. Today is my first day. But I am super excited. Although I did just film a 21-minute episode and there was no audio. So if this happens again, I might cry. But I think it's the little microphone. I think it was blinking and I don't know. But hopefully this is recording this time. I did test the mic like 3 times, but I also did it before the other one. So I'm not sure what happened. But today we are talking about loneliness. Being lonely is literally the path to success. And I know this sounds crazy, but you have so much more time for yourself. And it's just so great because you get to learn more about yourself that you might not think about when you're around others or putting others first. So once you lose those others, let's say they're toxic friends who ditched you, or, you messed something up and, your world came crashing down, like you're lonely, you're alone. And, you can always learn from your mistakes or learn from experiences, whether it's a crappy way to get there or something happened or you're all by yourself now, move to a new city. Who knows? Could be any of the above. Um, but being lonely is so great because you learn so much more about yourself. Like, for example, when I'm lonely or bored, I learned that I actually really like to draw. I'm not great at drawing or coloring or whatever. I have a ton of art stuff from when I was a kid, like color pencils, markers, fancy paint pens, like acrylic, all this stuff, all the stuff. Like, I feel like it's an art school downstairs. And I'm like, I really like drawing, like adult coloring books. Like, it's just so calming to me. Mandalas, like all of it. And I really love baking. So I learned all these things that I like to do that I wouldn't have time to really understand or try without being lonely and bored and alone. And I think there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. Lonely is like a feeling, I think. You could have tons of people in your life and feel lonely, but I think it's to do with the genuine connection with other people. Like, you could be in a room full of people that are your friends, but your values don't align and they don't know you really as a person, so you'll feel lonely. Versus being alone is physical, like there's no one around you. And I think for me in this episode, those two will be going hand in hand because I talk about what you can do with your time, but I'm also going to be talking about the feeling and how to change your mindset on the feeling of loneliness. So, if that makes any sense. But I don't think we should be looking at loneliness as a bad thing. Like, I think it's a super positive thing where you learn about yourself. You can learn, like, for me, for example, like, I'm super lonely right now. I have no friends. They ghosted me. I didn't do anything wrong. It was their choice. You know what? Have at it. You go ghost me and come crawling back later. I don't care. But I'm not letting them in back later, by the way. But, I've had this chance to really reflect on myself and learn. Like, I've started journaling, it clears my mind. And I decided, hey, I want to start a podcast. I want to grow on social media. I want to form a community of people who can talk to each other and uplift and support each other, who might relate to anything that I'm saying. And, maybe since you clicked on it, you do relate. And if you do, drop a follow, DM me if you have any questions. Hey, I'm always looking for new friends, okay? So, yeah. I'm like, please be my friend. Um, but yeah, I think loneliness is just such a positive thing that gives you time to just reflect on yourself and what you value. Because I know everyone says this, but at the end of the day, you only have yourself. Like, everyone else can come and go. One person that's always going to stay is you. You have to like yourself. You have to understand yourself to be able to not feel lonely when you're with people. You have to understand what you want in a friend, what you value in a relationship, whether that be dating or just other people in your life, platonic relationships. Um, you have to know what you like to have these genuine connections, to not feel lonely when you are with people and not physically alone. That seems really confusing when I say it, but I hope you're catching what I'm putting down. But you have to love yourself. And it's like what people say first, you have to love yourself before you're in a relationship. No, but you have to understand and know yourself before you hang out with other people if you're looking for like a long-term friendship, a long-term relationship. Like if you're looking for someone to be friends with for 3 months, well, make your intentions clear for this poor person if they become like, hey, let's be best friends, and you're like, no, I'm leaving in 3 months. Whatever. Like, make your intentions clear, but also, I guess, I don't know. If you only want to be friends with someone for like a short amount of time, that seems like you're using them. So don't do that, actually. That's mean. Unless they're just using you too, then you guys can use each other and be toxic. But I don't promote that. I like genuine relationships. I don't like toxic people. I can understand where people come from with their past, but it doesn't mean your actions to others are okay. I think that's one thing I really learned when being lonely. I've gone to therapy, obviously, lots of therapy. And I kind of analyze people in their relationships and why they act the way they act. I don't allow them to treat me poorly because of their past, but I do understand where they're coming from. And I'm always willing to talk to people. But I think being lonely makes you super successful because you learn about yourself. You could find a new passion. Let's say you like, I love to go on runs. I don't know. Then all of a sudden you have this whole new hobby, and maybe you're going to be running a marathon in like 2 years or whatever, maybe even 6 months. Who knows? So you could learn so much about yourself that you didn't know. Um, but yeah, you just learn your values. You're like, I really like this trait in people. I want to be more like this. You improve yourself internally too, which leads to a glow up, by the way. And you exhibit the traits you like, and you attract the traits you like by understanding it and thinking about it in your head. You might be like, how do I do that? Well, put yourself first. I personally love journaling. I love going on long walks, listening to podcasts, self-reflection, being outside. I think really connecting yourself, but also just doing that in your head. You have to be comfortable with feeling lonely and alone, and you have to accept your thoughts, and if they're a negative thought, then let them go. Don't let them consume you. Be filled with more positive thoughts, and don't force yourself to be positive. If you want to be mad, that's perfectly fine. If you want to be angry, but don't constantly be that way. Like, accept your thoughts and let them go if they're bad, and keep them if they're good. Like, positive self-talk is so important because eventually you'll believe it, and you should believe it already, because I'm majority of people on this earth are inherently good, in my opinion. I think that sometimes it's just nurture that causes someone to become a bad person. External forces, not within themselves. I think everyone makes choices, and you can choose to be a bad person. You can choose to be a good person. And so in this time frame, maybe you think that you've done some bad things, not bad things, but been a bad friend, whatever. Wasn't listening to someone, wasn't being very thoughtful. Now you have time to reflect on those things and become a better person. So you'll attract better people, and it's just all better. You change, you grow, you adapt, you become a better person, you improve. I think everyone wants to improve in life. And so I think being alone with yourself and your thoughts is a great way to improve. Back to the glow up piece, when you feel more confident within yourself and comfortable in your skin, it just shows. Your skin will be glowing, your hair will look nice, and it won't be because you've put on makeup or curled your hair or whatever you do to your hair. It's just because internally you feel better, and so it shows on your body. Sometimes your body will like physically reject people. Like if you're in a bad relationship with someone who's toxic, whether that be like platonic or not platonic, what I don't know, sexual relationship, I don't know. Um, it sometimes your body will physically react. Like you'll be super bloated, you'll have acne, like all this stuff. Like I was with this old friend group, I don't know, my sophomore year of high school, super mean to me. Like I just let them be mean, bully me about my grades. Like an A- is not bad, so shut up. But I had such bad acne, and like this is when my anxiety started to get really bad, and I kind of ignored these signs that it was to do with these people because I didn't want to be alone. But now that I've matured and grown, I'm like, I'm perfectly fine with being alone. Like, I cut off everyone this year going in school year who was not nice to me, which means old ties from that other friend group. And, I kept doing that throughout the year. If I tell you that you're excluding me and I don't like that and it's hurting my feelings, and I have a genuine conversation with you and you're not willing to understand my feelings or care a little bit, then you're gone. And that's what I did a lot of times. And it's sad to feel alone, but it's also better for my mental health. Like, I know it's sad and it hurts my mental health to be alone and feel lonely, but also it helps because I don't have all these people telling me bad things about myself or giving me bad thoughts or telling me I'm not good enough. Like, the only one telling me that is myself, but it's not doing that anymore because I'm alone and I've worked on my thoughts. So that is super important. But the glow up is just so nice when you're just alone and you have time for yourself and you care for your body. Like me recently, I've noticed, I'm like, hey, like, I've noticed now that I'm less busy and I'm sitting and I am just more aware, like, I'm like, my stomach gets really upset when I have dairy or whatever. Like, I get really bloated and feel gross. And I'm like, wow, so I can make this dietary lifestyle change. And I think it's connected to the fact that I have time to sit and think and process and feel like care for myself. So I think that's super valuable. And just another thing I want to talk about today is when you feel lonely with other people because of the lack of a genuine connection. Like, let's say you just moved, well, I guess brand new, like if you've been friends with someone for a couple months now and you feel comfortable enough with them, well, no, you wouldn't feel comfortable enough. Sorry. If you're friends with someone and you're scared to open up, that's not a genuine friendship and you're going to feel lonely in that. And, feeling lonely in a room full of people is such a sad feeling, to feel like you can't connect with others or that you're not worthy of other people, but you are. Okay, I promise you are. You have to put yourself out there though. And let's say you've been friends with this person, somebody for 3 months, okay, and you feel like there's not a genuine, like, you feel lonely with them. You don't feel like you guys are actually hanging out and having a good time majority of the time. You can obviously have fun sometimes with people, but a genuine connection is just so important. If you feel like you're lacking that, stop and reflect before you get any sort of emotion into it. Stop and reflect and think about what is lacking, not looking for the cracks in what the person does, but what is that emotion? What is that connection that it's missing? Is it talking about serious subjects? Is it the future or being immature, like only going to parties? Like, what is the trait of the friendship that is lacking or is there that shouldn't be? And then maybe once you really narrowed it down and thought about it for a couple days, maybe talk to this friend if you value that friendship and you want to continue to be their friend. Talk about it. Hey, I feel super lonely with you. I think it's because we don't talk about like serious topics a lot. Like, do you think that's true too? Like, what is your take on this? Like, I feel like for me, like, it'd help if we talked about more serious things sometimes instead of just going to parties or whatever. And, you know, I think we should be there for each other because I really like you and value our friendship and I'd love to be closer. Something like that. And like, if the person is like emotionally mature that you're talking to, there shouldn't be any issues. And if they aren't emotionally mature and they're like, no, shut up, like, I don't care about you, like, then you don't want to be friends with this person because they're not going to support you in the long run. So that's my take on that. I think it sucks when you feel alone in a room full of people. Like, it truly sucks. Like, when you're in a room with all these people you used to be friends with, or like people you used to be connected to, whether they be old talking stages, old friendships, all of that in a room, so uncomfortable. Like, for me at school, I'd go into my Spanish class or whatever, and I see one of my old friend group on one side. I got a couple talking stages, not a couple, I swear I don't talk to that many people, but I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. Like, I feel so alone when I literally know all these people. Or like, then like you'll be in class talking or in a situation where they're talking and you like just know the fact that they're gonna say about themselves, like, you know them. And it's so sad to feel like lonely and a loss of friendship. But when you know these people aren't good for you, you'll be thanking yourself at the end of the day. I feel like I cut off a lot from what I talked about last time. Maybe not. Maybe it's been close to 20 minutes. I'm not sure. But for me, like right now, I'm super alone going into graduation. It's a really sad thing to say. Like 3 weeks ago, I would tell you that I'm having 100 people show up to my party, and now I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I feel super lonely. Like, my friends have ghosted me. It's really sad. because one of them was a friend for 7 years. But, you know, I think measuring a friendship by length isn't really what's important. But what is important to me is that I was there for her through all her ups and downs, all her bad parts, all her good parts of her struggle. And then when it comes to me being a little more struggle and wanting to lean on my friends for a little bit more support, they ghost me. It was really frustrating. Yeah. So they kind of walked out of my life. Well, one of them was a 7 year friendship. The other one I just became friends with at the beginning of the year. So I think that's just senior year. Being used is just the worst feeling. So I'd rather be alone than feel used. It's like, it's almost like a pro con thing. Like, I'd rather feel lonely than be used, be cheated on if it's that kind of relationship, be ignored, made fun of, talked behind my back. I don't like any of those things. That sounds terrible. I wouldn't want someone to talk behind my back in a mean way. Like, if you're like, oh my God, yeah, she's so pretty, like to your friend, like that's a good thing. But negative talk behind someone's back just isn't great. Like, I know there's a difference between gossip and like just completely, utterly shit talking and lying and just all that stuff. So, like, those people are toxic. Please leave my life. I would much rather be alone than be with someone who's constantly trying to bring me down. So, if you ever feel like sad that you're alone, just remember like there are so many worse alternatives. And, you know, at the end of the day, being lonely isn't bad because you have yourself. And as long as you have those positive thoughts or you work on those positive thoughts because you want to improve, like most people, then it won't be bad. And honestly, everything works out in the end. And, you know, there's always a new chapter of your life you're waiting to start. For me, like, this came at a perfect time. I have a couple weeks of school left. Well, I graduate in 6 days, but when I lost my friends, I had a couple weeks of school left to get through, kind of by myself and my family, enjoying the time I have. And then I'll go into the summer, work a little bit more, maybe, fill up my time, hang out with my family, and then I'm off moving thousands of miles away to go to college. And it's a perfect time to reflect on myself and level up before my next chapter of life. And if you really feel lonely or you did something really bad, which I hope you didn't, but there's always forgiveness for the most part, depending on what you did. You can start new. You can always start new. Hell, if you have to move all the way to like Australia or like across the globe to do that, then do it because you only live once. Why suffer when life is so short? And I know that sounds so cliche to say, but like, why tolerate this? Don't let these people walk all over you your whole life and feel bad about yourself your whole life. Don't just make excuses. Oh, well, they just did this to me. They just did that. And I'm just a victim. No, you can take the time that you have by yourself now to improve and become better and attract better. And then, bam, life's better. You worked on it. You improved. You didn't stand for the slander from other people. You moved on. You improved yourself, even if you were supposed to or not, based on the situation, and your life is going to be better. It'll show because you genuinely deserve to have a better life. You genuinely deserve to improve. So don't ever stop. This is about it for this week's episode. Looking into the future, I have a couple notes down for talking about high school, friendships, relationships, emotions, communication, social media, kind of all the basics. A lot to do with mental health because it's something I struggle with. I have social anxiety and I'm on medication for it. And I also attend therapy. So I do know a couple techniques, and I hope that that makes you feel less alone in the world. Get it, because we're talking about loneliness, but you're not alone. There are so many people out there who have the same experience as you or a similar one that they can connect with you about and talk to you about. And you might not think or not realize that there are people like that out here. So that's why I'm making this podcast to connect us all and to not feel alone. So feel free to follow. I'll probably put my other socials in my description, whether this is on Spotify or YouTube. And feel free to comment any ideas or topics to talk about and any suggestions. I know I should probably get a new microphone. I don't think this one is great, but we got to work with what we got because I'm on a budget. But yeah, thanks for watching, listening. Have a good day.